guys, I'm Justin Sonnet. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about how to rig up a sailboat to be a little bit better in different wind conditions. This is going to be for the advanced sailor, just little techniques and tips that'll get you on the water, get you going a little bit faster, and kind of streamline everything out for you in the future. Alright, the first thing we're going to be talking about today is the Outhaul. The Outhaul is responsible for this purple line right here, and this is going to adjust the tension between the sail and the boom, and it's going to actually adjust the angle of the sail, and it's going to change the airfoil of the sail. In light wind conditions, it's important to remember to not keep it real tight. When you don't have a whole lot of wind, it's better to keep it a little loose. It's going to give you a little bit more speed on the water. When you do have a lot of wind, you want to go ahead and cinch it down really tight as you can get it. And it's also super important to remember, always after you run the Outhaul through everything and rig it up, always remember to put a little safety knot in here. And this is going to help you out in the event of like a capsize or something. If this comes uncleated, it's going to stop, and this isn't going to all come unrigged on you out in the water. Now sometimes you're out in the water in really windy conditions, it's going to be really hard to adjust the Outhaul just because you're going to have so much pressure on the sail, especially when you're out there sailing, that it's going to be way too much force on the line. So a good way to help you out with this is normally when you rig the Outhaul, you just loop it through that eyelet once and then straight to the cleat. A little tip is if you rig it through twice, so you run it through the little eyelet on the boom, then run it back through the clew of the sail, and then run it one more time back through the boom. This is going to give you what's called purchase. So you're going to have twice as much leverage over the sail when you're out in the water. Alright, so again, real high wind conditions, if you loop it through twice, so we're going to have it coming from the sail into the eyelet on the boom, back through the clew of the sail, back through the boom one more time, and then you go ahead and run it into your cleat. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you way more leverage over the sail. So it's called purchase. I can cinch it down super tight if I need to in the event of like really high winds. It's just going to help you out a lot and make things a lot easier. Alright, the next adjustment we're going to be talking about is called the downhaul. The purpose of the downhaul is basically it's this white line that comes from the bottom of the sail. It's just going to pull down the sail on the leading edge, and it's just going to pull a bunch of the wrinkles out of the front of the sail. So what you want to do is you want to rig the downhaul through this cleat like you normally would, and then you pull it straight down. And if you look up the sail, you can see that as I pull it down, it's pulling this leading edge a lot tighter and pulling all the wrinkles out of it. And then you just simply push it into the cleat and tighten it up, and then it's stuck. It's good to go. A couple things to remember is in light wind conditions, similar to the Outhaul, the downhaul, you want to be kind of loose in light wind conditions. That's going to let the sail ride up a little bit more, and it's going to give it a little more curve and a little more airfoil in light wind. And if you have heavy wind conditions, just pull it down real tight, get the wrinkles out of it, and cleat it, and you're good to go. Just remember, you want to loosen low winds, tight in high winds, just like the Outhaul. Alright, next thing we're going to be talking about is the main sheet block anti-reverse. This is really handy when you're free sailing. If you have a lot of wind, what's going to happen is, as you can see, if it won't let this pulley, when you pull it towards you, it'll let it come in, but then when you let it go out, it locks up, and that's going to take a lot of the pressure off your hand when you're running the main sheet, especially if you're constantly making adjustments and you don't want to cleat it into the cleats. That's going to help you out a whole lot. It's going to take a whole lot of strain off of this main sheet. But sometimes if you're sailing in really light wind conditions, there might not be enough wind to actually let this main sheet back out of that block. So I think that's going to help you out is there's a little lever right here. This is the anti-reverse. And what this is going to do is when you flip this down, that lets the main sheet block spin freely in both directions. And that's going to let this boom swing out a lot easier whenever you have really light wind conditions. So flip it up, it locks up, and it's going to turn the clicker on too. And that's going to help take a lot, in heavy wind, it's going to help take a lot of the strain off your main sheet arm if you don't want to cleat it in. Flip it down, it's going to freewheel, and that's going to give it a lot less restriction to let it slide out and in and out a lot easier in light wind. Next item we're going to be talking about is the boom vang. That's this whole mechanism right here with the red line. It's not necessary if you're just going to go for a cruise, but it can help you out a whole lot if you're racing or trying to get the most out of it. And it's also going to make downwind jibes a lot easier. First thing about the boom vang is it's got a little cleat, just like any of those other jam cleats right here. It's got a little cleat right there, so you can pull it tight and then just pull the line forward, and it locks it in, and you're good to go. Now, if you're just out sailing, just cruising around in normal conditions, and you're not really racing or trying to get everything out of the boat that you can, you just want to leave it kind of slack. You want to let the boom be a little bit higher than parallel. Don't try to tighten it down or keep it real loose, because if you don't know how to use the boom thing exactly. Just it's gonna hurt you more than it's gonna help you. Good thing to remember is when you're going downwind, if you loosen it up a little bit, what it's gonna help you do is if you're going downwind, you have the boom way up to the side. This sail's gonna try to blow the boom way up high. So what this boom thing does is by pulling it down, it keeps it low and it gives you the most surface area on your sail. So as you're going downwind, you got a jibe. You want to keep your boom pretty parallel to the ground, and that's going to expose the most sail to the wind. Anybody who's had a lot of experience in these boats is going to notice the one thing that's really tricky is whenever you're going downwind and you go for a jibe, the boat's going to want to pull really hard to one side as you come across the wind, and it's going to try to turn into weather. So an important thing that the boom bank can help out a lot with is if you have it really loose and your boom's way up here, as you're going downwind, as you come across for your jibe, the boat's going to want to turn in real hard. If you remember to keep your boom bang a little tighter, not too tight, you just want a little bit above parallel. That's going to help you a lot. As you come across the wind, the boat's going to be a lot more controllable and a lot more stable as you come across. Alright, the next thing we're going to be talking about is the Traveler. The Traveler is this little setup right here. Not a whole lot of smaller boats like this have it, but they can be really useful, especially in high winds. If you're just going for a leisurely sail, just cruising, you want to keep the Traveler centered. And then you're going to rely on your main sheet to control how far in and out the boom's going to go. And that's just going to keep things real simple. Alright, Travelers can be used with your main sheet. The main difference between a Traveler and a main sheet is the Traveler is going to also control the angle of your boom and how far out it can travel. The Traveler is going to individually control how far out the boom wants to go. So for instance, if I'm sailing at V reach and I want the boom out to one side, but I also want to keep my boom low, to keep a pretty tight airfoil in the sail, you can let the Traveler out to one side but still keep the sheet in. So that's going to keep your boom low and your sail tight, keep a tight airfoil, but it's going to change the angle of the sail to the wind. This is actually really useful in high wind conditions. If you want to depower it, you can still keep the sail tight and keep a tight airfoil, but you're going to bleed off a lot of air off the side of the sail if you use the Traveler like that. The one thing to remember about the Traveler is you're only going to be able to sheet in the Traveler as you're coming across the wind. So if I want to switch if I had the Traveler over to this side, and I want to switch, I'm going to loosen the Traveler before I come across the wind, and then it's going to swing over, and then you're good to go. Alright, so just to recap on the Traveler, just normal day-to-day sailing, just leisurely sailing, I wouldn't even mess with it. But if you're really starting to get into racing, you want to get a little more run out of the boat, or if you're in super high wind conditions, you can use this Traveler to bleed off a little speed, but still keep a good sail, shaping your sail with the sheet. As far as adjusting the Travelers for different wind positions, get you a little bit more speed. Obviously, when you're sailing close hauled, you're sailing real straight into the wind. You want to keep the Traveler centered, and you want to keep your main sheet tight. You want to keep the boom as parallel to the center line of the boat as possible, and that's going to let you get as far upwind as you can. Alright, now when sailing on a beam reach, what you want to do is you want to let the Traveler loose. This way, you're going to still be able to keep your sheet tight and keep your airfoil in the sail really tight and clean, but you're going to have the boom over to one side. So basically, the Traveler is just changing the angle of the boom in relation to the boat without changing the tension of the sail. So that's crucial to remember. So if you want to keep a really tight airfoil on your sail, keep the sheet tight, but let the Traveler out. Alright, one cool feature this boat has is it's got this little thing called a Baler. Balers are really handy. What they're going to do is they act kind of like a bilge plug for your footwell, and they keep the water out. Whenever you're not moving, you want to make sure it's in the upright position, and you want to flip this little lock down, and that's going to pull the bottom of it up tight to the boat and seal everything off. Now eventually water is going to get into your footwell, so what you want to do is you want to flip up this lock, push the Baler down, and that's going to open it up. And you can see straight through it, but as you're moving, it's going to create a vacuum that sucks all this water out of the footwell. So it's a really handy way to keep the inside of the boat really dry. Important thing to remember is when you're moving, you want to keep it down, but as soon as you stop or you start moving too slow, if you lose a lot of water speed, flip it up and flip down the lock, and that's going to seal everything off, and you'll be good to go. Stay dry.